Hello, and welcome to Intermittent Fasting for the Win podcast. I'm your host, Mike Saunders, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. A little about me: I've shed over 80 pounds and counting and regained my health by embracing this incredible lifestyle of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has changed my life in so many ways that it would take an entire podcast to go over them. So let me ask you, are you ready to take your fasting to the next level and unlock its full potential? Well, you've landed in the right spot. We'll be interviewing fellow fasters from all walks of life, shining a light on their progress, their struggles, and their victories. Stick with us because we've got all this and more in store to help you become a winner through intermittent fasting. DanielaLa Rocca Maxia started her intermittent fasting journey on August 24th of 2023. A year before, she had lost her brother to complications from diabetes at only 54 years of age. She said, "I saw what an awful disease that was, and I did not want to go down that path. I saw an interview on TV with a doctor who said she lost 20 pounds with intermittent fasting. So I went down the Google rabbit hole and found Dr. Fung and then Jen Stevens. I lost 20 pounds in 4 months, and I've been in maintenance for almost a year and a half and have never done anything so easy for my health and weight loss." My first question to you is, what inspired you to try intermittent fasting in the first place?
Okay, so real quick backstory. I was born in Rome. My brother and I were both born in Rome, but we grew up in the States. We moved there. I was a year and a half. My brother was a month old. So lived to Italy when I was in my 20s. My parents stayed there. My brother continued to stay there. So we would go back and forth visiting on vacation. I would go there. They would come here. And, for years, I got married here. I settled here, had a son, work, and everything. Um, Backtracked a couple years ago, almost 3 years ago. My brother passed away from complications from diabetes, from type 2 diabetes, unfortunately. He had been sick. He was diagnosed when he was in his like 39, 40 years old. Um, so that was just, it was a lot. And I think if you look up the complications from diabetes in like a medical textbook and everything that can happen, he had. So, and he was also a cardiac patient. He had had like 2 heart attacks before he was like 45. So his health was just a hot mess. Um, 2.5 months prior to my brother's death, my father passed away. He had fell at home and he, never made it out of the hospital. In 2020, so in the whole midst of COVID, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So I was going kind of back and forth between here and the States trying to help out with the whole situation with my dad, my brother, my mom. And it was also very stressful because everything through COVID, international travel was just so hectic. It was just very difficult. But anyway, after my brother passed and my father passed, I obviously could not leave my mom in the States by herself anymore. So I brought her back home with me to Italy and I got her settled, got her settled here. And once the dust kind of settled and I could take a breath, I just thought, okay, I have to do something for myself here for my health. Because after seeing just the terrible situation that my brother was in and realizing that I didn't want to go down that path. And even if I never really had problems with my blood sugar or anything like that, I just like, okay, well, let's see what I can do. Let's see if we can find something that's going to work. And I had seen an interview on TV of a doctor who had said she lost over 20 pounds with intermittent fasting. She had gone through menopause. She had always been thin. And she's like, I gained all this weight, with menopause. And I lost over 20 pounds with intermittent fasting. And I'm like, intermittent fasting. And I, grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school and everything. So I always heard of fasting, but always pertaining to Easter and Lent and things like that. I'd never heard of intermittent fasting pertaining to weight loss. So I went down the proverbial hole of internet and looked up intermittent fasting and weight loss and came across Dr. Fung and read, information about that and saw some videos. And I ran into Jin and I read about her book, Fast Feast for Peace. So I downloaded that right away and just trying to see what this whole thing was about because I was like, okay, well, where's the gimmick here? Because after so many years of dieting and having done so many things like so many other people have done, it's like, okay, well, it sounds too good to be true. It sounds too easy. Like you don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to kill yourself working out. Where's the gimmick? Where's the gimmick in this?
Yeah.
So, and I remember this was a couple of days before we were supposed to go on vacation. And I thought, well, I'm not going to start this now because, the vacation was with the hotel and the full breakfast and that kind of thing. I'm like, I'll start when I get back. So we came home and the very next day I started and I just started right up with 16.8 um, and just, jumped in. In the beginning, I thought, I must be crazy to do this. I'm never going to be able to do this. There's no way I cannot eat for like 18 hours or 17 hours or even 16 hours. And it's like, and, just drink black coffee. And I'm not a big coffee drinker. I mean, anyone who's been to Italy knows that Italians take their espresso and their coffee and their cappuccino very seriously. So for me to go from having a cappuccino, I was never really like a big breakfast eater. I would just have a cappuccino in the morning. That was it. So to go from that to drinking like an American black coffee, I was like, oh boy, this is not going to be easy. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought. So I jumped into that, and after several weeks, just kind of pushed up a little bit to 17, 18, 19, and I settled between an 18 and 18.6 was 18.6, and just basically did that. And honestly, I didn't have any problems. I mean, it was pretty easy. It really was pretty simple. And I was just like, okay, so I took all my measurements, like they say, take your measurements and, and just keep track. And I would go on the scale and, and slowly, 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 in 4 months, I lost 20 pounds. And I was like, wow, this really works. This really works. It's not that complicated.
Yes, it
It's
is.
not that complicated. And honestly, I have to say, I really didn't change what I ate because I love to cook. Okay, my mom was a great cook. So I really grew up in a household where we didn't have all these ultra processed foods. We didn't eat a lot of stuff that was, not really good for you, let's put it that way. In the neighborhood that I grew up, there was a bunch of kids that were all the same age. And everybody always wanted to come to my house, either for lunch or for dinner, because my mom was always the one making homemade pizza, homemade stromboli, homemade meatballs. And I always wanted to go to their houses because they're the ones that had, the soda and the potato chips and the cookies, all the stuff that we really never had at our house. So it was just funny just growing up that way. But I realized that I really didn't change what I was eating. I just changed when I ate. And the only thing that I really cut back on was sugar and soda. I would drink maybe 2 cups of like 2 glasses of Coke a day. That's it. I never, that's as much as I would drink. And now I really don't drink that. Maybe once in a while when we go out for pizza, or whatever. But at home, I don't drink soda anymore. So that's really the only thing that I cut back on. I didn't really cut back on any types of foods and say, I'm not going to eat this anymore. I'm not going to eat that anymore. I just really, watched the window that I kept and just kept everything to that time period. And like I said, loving to cook, I would make my own sourdough bread and on and on and on.
So now, how long have you been in maintenance mode?
Since December of 2023.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
good
So
long
a
haul.
year. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that just amazes me the more wasn't so much losing the weight. I think the hardest part that a lot of people have, I think, is maintaining the weight loss. So after the 4 months when I lost the 20 pounds, I'm like, okay, now is going to be the real test. Okay, to see if this really sticks. Because with any other diets that a lot of people went through, you lose the weight, you go back to eating normally, and the weight comes back with a couple of its friends. Okay, so sure.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about because basically, after I lost 80 pounds, uh, then I had my surgery and everything else. So then I basically went in maintenance mode until February of this year. And
Hmm.
that's when I started back tightening up my windows. So, yes, it's easy. It's easy peasy to maintain your weight using intermittent fasting. And that's the huge difference between that and
Oh,
diet.
It's enormous. It's enormous. And I really don't weigh myself that much because obviously you can tell from your clothes. If I maybe get on the scale once a month, okay, but I am amazed every time I jump on the scale and my weight is always the same. It might shift maybe 2 pounds, 2 pounds up, 2 pounds down, but that's it. That's it. And it just, that is what shocked me the most. Okay, not like you said, not the losing the weight part, it's maintaining the weight loss that just amazes me.
Yes.
It really does. It really does. And,
It's
obviously living in Italy, I mean, I eat pasta, I eat bread, I eat pizza, I eat all the things that I normally did before. And many times when people, say to me, oh, well, I can't eat carbs or, carbs are the devil. Now, obviously, everyone has to find what works for them and what works for their body. But I always say the equation, it can't be, sure.
well, good carbs are not the devil, but
Hmm.
bad carbs are the
Oh, of
devil.
course. Of course. No, I'm not talking about ultra processed carbs. I'm talking about real food. Okay. I'm talking especially specifically when I make the example.
But in Italy,
If,
y'all don't have that problem because your pasta
yeah,
and your wheat and everything over
yeah,
there is much better quality than what
yeah.
we do here.
It's very different. It's very different. And the point that I often make with people is if pasta and rice, okay, were the devil, all Italians that live in Italy and all Chinese or Japanese people would be obese because
Yes.
Italians incorporate pasta into at least one meal a day, just like Asian people do, or Chinese or Japanese people incorporate rice into their meals almost every single day. So that's not the problem. Okay, that's not the problem. It's the quality of food. Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
just like I have one of my closest friends in this world is from Laos, and
Hmm.
he eats rice 2 to 3 times a day.
There you
But
go.
here's the kicker. He is very picky about where he buys his rice and the brand of rice and where that rice came from.
Hmm.
Not just going to
Hmm.
go to Walmart and grab a bag of
Yeah.
Uncle Ben's. He's gonna
Hmm.
he's gonna buy rice that came from the country.
Right.
He knows that
Hmm.
it's good and pure.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, quality is everything. I mean, honestly, quality is everything. I have friends in the States that, are allergic to, flour or grains or whatnot and come over here and have pasta and have the pizza and have the bread and don't get sick. So I think it's more they're allergic to the chemicals, they have reaction. And a lot of products that we have in the States are not permitted here. Okay, a lot of preservatives, a lot of colorings and things like that are not permitted in Italy in the food. So it's a very, very different market. It's a very different market. And also another thing is, Mike, that we have everything here, whatever you eat, whether it be salad, your fish, everything is with extra virgin olive oil. Okay. You don't find blue cheese salad dressing here. Okay. You're not going to find French salad dressing here. People don't eat salad with dressings. It's either olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, balsamic vinegar, maybe fresh squeezed lemon. That's it. Okay, that's it. So it's just very different. It's just very, very different. The quality of food, the types of food that we eat.
Okay. Well, you have answered. I'm counting off the questions. I'm counting off the
I
questions on my
condensed
list
everything.
that you've already answered, and I don't need to answer. So let's move on. But here's one that you haven't answered yet, and I'm going to move on down the list. And
Okay.
have you noticed? I know you have. So the question shouldn't be have you noticed? I'm just going to ask you
What have you?
what kind of changes in your physical health or your mental
Mhm.
clarity have you
Mhm.
noticed since you've been a faster?
I just think feeling better, just feeling better in general and just more self-confidence. Okay. Just feeling better in your own skin. Okay. I've always loved springtime. Okay. I've always hated having to shed your winter clothes. So being able to hide behind the winter coats, the heavy sweaters, and Rome does not get that cold. If it may be 40 degrees for like maybe 2 weeks. Okay. So Rome is not a cold city. It doesn't snow here. So it's not like you can walk around with, really, really heavy, heavy winter gear. But just the fact of having to take the layers off in the springtime was always, oh, okay, we got to do this because obviously you can't walk around with heavy stuff on. But now it's like, okay, and you just don't feel self-conscious anymore. You know, you just don't, you feel good in your own skin. I can't say it any other way. I think that's just the best thing that you can take away from intermittent fasting. It's just so much more than just weight loss. It
Did
really
you
is just so much more than weight loss.
did you notice anything, any changes like, I mean, blood pressure or any of those biomarkers?
Well, I take blood pressure medication. And unfortunately, that's just a familiar problem with my family. Everybody has some kind of heart issues, like my brother, everybody, my cousins that are like my age and younger. So even my doctors, I was able to half downsize the medication. So I take half of what I used to take before,
Yes,
which is,
yes.
I'll take it. That's fine. If I have to take the other half, whatever, it's fine. But my blood pressure is good. I had my blood work done a month ago, and my doctor was like, wow. It's like, you don't take anything for cholesterol, you don't take anything for your thyroid. It's like, no, I take nothing, just my blood pressure medication. That's it. My A1C was 4.9. And
Oh,
obviously
wow.
my brother was being a diabetic, and my mom's sister was a type 1 diabetic. So obviously that's, those kind of things that you want to take, keep under check. Keep under check. So she was really high. She's like, listen, I can't tell you anything. Just keep doing what you're doing, she said to me. Just
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. And I think another thing that I noticed, which for me is huge, because like I said, having my mom, with Alzheimer's, like when you get up and you have to go into another room because you have to do something, and you go into that room and you can't for the life of you remember what you went to do. It's like, okay, what did I come here to do? I have no clue. And slowly after a couple months, I would go, I would walk into the room and I would remember what I had to do. I was like, okay, I came in here to do this. I came in to, came to do that or to get this. And it was once, twice, three times. And I thought, this is great. If it would
Yeah.
just help me like to focus and remember, even if I didn't lose a pound, I would keep doing this forever. If I didn't have to go down the road that my mom is on, I would just do this forever if that was all I would get out of this. So that's why I say it's just so much more than just losing the weight or keeping the weight off. It's just so much more. It really is.
Well, with me, I watched my father and my mother both slowly go down that curve and slowly go downhill.
Mm,
And I made up
mm.
my mind that I want to go as fast as I can until it's my time, and then I want to crash and burn, you know?
Yeah,
And
I do.
I don't
I
want
do.
to I don't want to go down slowly. I want to go down fast.
hmm Well, especially Mike, no one wants to go down sick. Okay.
No.
No one wants to be sick. You don't want to be sick. Okay. And I mean, all illnesses are terrible. I'm not saying, but there are just certain ones that are just awful to see. Awful to see a loved one go through, awful to be on the receiving end of that. Okay. There's some things that just literally, like diabetes just consumes you from the inside out. It really does. It really does. And it's horrific to see. So if you can do anything just to work against that, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
how many diseases are caused by what we're eating, the wrong
Oh,
things, and how much we're eating of the wrong things, and how
oh, so
often we're eating the wrong things. And
absolutely.
that's where intermittent
Absolutely.
fasting helps, because it's not only going to
hmm
change the
hmm
when of or how often you eat, it's going to change
hmm
what you want to eat.
Yeah. But it's gonna change your whole life, you know, your whole
So,
life.
how do you handle hunger or cravings?
In the beginning, well, I'm very busy in the morning. I'm usually out of the house, so I'm not really around, in the house that much, and I don't open my window until like around maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock. So for the most part, just keeping busy. If I were home and if I were hungry in the beginning, I would just maybe drink a little bit of water, or just try to do something like pass the sweeper in the house. I don't know, just to get like those 5, 10 minutes to shift from that moment that you're hungry, and then it'll just go away. Now, if I get hungry, I'll look at my clock, whatever. I still use an app. I know a lot of people don't. I just like that accountability. I don't know why. I just like to say, okay, this is when I open, this is when I close, and that's just the way I track things during the day. But sure.
You hit a really, really good point there. You said I can just do something for 5 or 10 minutes, and then it's
hmm
because that's the truth. A hunger pain is not going to be there for hours. It's only going to
No.
be for a few
Yeah.
minutes, and then it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's
And I
what
also think
a lot
it's
of
a lot.
people.
Yeah, yeah. And besides a physical thing that you might feel, it's also very psychological. I think when you're home, it's probably more difficult to get over that hurdle because obviously you're at home. If you're out and about, then you might feel hungry. It's like, okay, well, I can still wait a little bit. I think just keeping busy is the biggest thing that we can do for ourselves. Like I said, it's those 5, 10 minutes, and then it moves on and it moves away, and you just go about your day, you know. So sometimes I would get to, 18 hours, 19 hours. I had done a couple OMAD, never in my life. I remember the first time I had on my app and it said, 24 hours fast. Like, wow. I never thought I would have been able to do something like that and not die of hunger in the meantime. And I think a lot of people have the misconception that, oh, I'm going to starve, I'm going to starve. And it's just the opposite. That once your body gets fat adapted, you are not hungry, during the hours that you fast. Okay. Sure.
They, I've had, I can't tell you how many people say, well, if I don't eat, I'll go hypoglycemic and my blood sugar
Mm,
drop. I'll say, well, look, if you would just get a handle on it slowly, ease into this thing, and you will be
hmm
amazed that your sugar
hmm
levels will just smooth out and
Even out.
you won't have the
Yeah.
spike and the drop and the spike and the drop,
hmm
spike and the drop because they're just
hmm
sabotaging themselves all day long. So,
Exactly.
so listen,
Exactly.
how has intermittent fasting changed your relationship with food or how you approach meals?
Well, like I said, I love to cook, so I'm a big planner. I like to say, okay, we're going to do this, I don't know, get like a set idea of what I want to cook for the week and then just organize myself. I don't like to come home and say, oh, what am I going to make and have no clue? Because if you're hungry, then you're just going to throw yourself on the first thing that you find in the refrigerator. So I just try to basically plan, lunch, dinner, whatever it's going to be. And I really, like I said before, I really haven't changed, what I eat. I just changed. Obviously, you have to contain the amount of food you eat. You have to reduce a little bit. You can't eat a large quantity of food because you still have to be mindful of what you eat and also how much of things that you eat. So, but I haven't changed. There's not one thing besides sugar. There's really not anything else that I really cut out of my life. I don't drink alcohol. I never drank. And try saying that with a straight face in Italy that you don't like wine. Okay, people look at you like, what kind of Italian are you? I'm like, oh, I don't know, sorry.
Well,
I just never liked it, so I don't drink it.
as
So that's
as
not an issue for me.
as an outsider looking in from somebody sitting over here in the States and looking at your lifestyle in Italy, I'm going to say, and I know I feel like I'll be right by saying this, you really didn't have to modify your food choices
Mm,
much because you're
no,
on this Mediterranean style
yeah,
of eating,
I've
which
done.
is a healthier eating
Yeah,
than
yeah,
what we have over here with all the highly
yeah.
processed foods and stuff.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, if I was never a big like junk food eater to begin with. If I go to like McDonald's or Burger King once a year, maybe that's it. So it's not like I had to really cut back from, all the ultra processed food that I ate before. So like you said, I really haven't had to change that much because, the Mediterranean diet is just a lot of fresh everything. It's a lot of fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, fresh fish. Okay, meat, pasta, obviously, pizza, breads, that kind of thing. But there isn't one category of food that I've removed. I eat a lot of like lentils, I eat a lot of beans, I eat a lot of everything, but just good food. Okay, good food. I would rather make, homemade cookies or I make my sourdough bread at home than go out and buy, a box of cookies. Okay, it's one thing, Oreos are not the same as, homemade chocolate chip cookies.
Oh, no,
Okay, or
no.
whatever. If I make pizza, I make my homemade dough. So it's like a 24-hour rise dough. And it's just very different. Like you said, just the starting point is very different. The starting point for our diets. And like I said, extra olive, virgin olive oil is everywhere. That's really what you use not when you cook so much, because you don't want to use that because it's expensive, first of all, but you don't want to use that when you like fry your foods. But when you have a salad, when you have salmon, when you have your fish, that's what we use, and that's what we do. So it is a very easy diet to follow, and it's a very balanced diet. It has just a little bit of everything. You're not, and fresh fruit. A lot of people don't eat fresh fruit because they're afraid of the carbs and all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, everybody has to find their own way that, the thing that works for them.
So
Go
what
ahead.
you're saying is everybody's different.
Of course, of course, of course. What might work for you won't work for me and vice versa. So everybody has to find what works for them. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm. I want to see how well you did your homework here. Okay.
Okay.
Give me
Okay.
one unexpected benefit that you gained from intermittent fasting that you didn't even see coming on the radar.
Well, what I said before, this whole thing with my memory. just really, really surprised me. I thought I had read about it, but okay, that's a bunch of baloney. That's never going to happen. Yeah, I didn't believe that at all. But what? No, but then, wow, okay. I am remembering if I have to like write down the list, I don't know, for the supermarket, and I have to remember, do I have to write this down? I would never remember what it was. But then, when you realize it does get better and it has gotten better. So like I said, with the situation with my mom, if that's all I got out of intermittent fasting, that's good with me. That's fine with me. So yeah, I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that. And I didn't expect, like I said before, just that even the maintenance would be very simple. A lot of people say, well, what do I do? I lost the weight. Now what do I do? How do I maintain, how do you maintain? Just keep doing what you're doing, just keep doing what you're doing. You know what's good for you. You know what works for you. You know what doesn't work for your body. And just keep doing what you're doing. Life has to be a balance. It can also be, never eat this cookie again, never eat this ice cream again. Intermittent fasting has to fit into our lifestyle. It shouldn't be the other way around. Okay. And just the liberty and, knowledge is power. When you know what you're doing and you know how things work, that makes the whole difference in the world of anything. Okay. And having a plan that you can eat, okay, enjoy your food and not micromanage every little thing that you have to put into your mouth. Well, if that's not liberty, I don't know what is. I don't know what is. So it's also, having discipline that also gives you the freedom to enjoy food, maybe in a way we never have before. Because whoever has dieted for years, I'm going to be 59 at the end of the month. Okay, so I wish I had found this 40 years ago when I was in my 20s. Okay, so it's something that a lot of us has been through and have tried anything and everything, but it's always like, a gerbil on the a hamster on the wheel. It just keeps going round and round. It goes, it comes back, it goes, it comes back, and you're never able to break that circle. And this was just something that was really able to break the circle. And a lot of people, I really don't talk about intermittent fasting with anyone. I mean, if people see me, they say, "Oh, you've lost weight. What have you done?" So if someone asks me, I'll talk about it. And I've had 8 people between family members. My husband fasts as well, and he's tall and thin and runs, so he doesn't need to. But I think in the beginning, he just started to keep me company. He's like, okay, well, we'll do it together. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So he does it with me. My son does it as well. Both my sister-in-laws fast. One of her husbands, my sister-in-law's husbands fast, and 2 other friends. So 8 people. So that for me is a lot. They started and it's like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And they've been doing that as well for almost over a year. So it's wonderful to see that. It's wonderful to see that. It's not just for me, but also for other people how it works
Okay.
and sticking to it.
Last question. We got about 3 minutes left here. So
Okay, shoot.
for somebody who's curious about trying it and they've never done it before,
Mhm.
give them your best piece of advice.
My best piece of advice was just to study the subject, study the material. Knowledge is power. So go on the internet, find good books like Jen, like Dr. Fung's. There's so many out there. There really are so many out there. And understand the science behind all this. Why does this work? It's not just a diet fad. It's not just, oh, okay, whatever, I'll lose the weight and then, we'll see how it goes. Learn why it works. And that is going to help you stick to this kind of lifestyle, okay? Because it does become a lifestyle. We don't wake up in the morning and say, oh, I have to get up and brush my teeth. You get up and you do it. And this is, fasting will become that for you in the long
Well,
run. You're going to get up, you're going to have your window, whether it be morning, afternoon, evening, whatever works best for your lifestyle. And that's just going to become part of your day. Okay, so I would say, look for the
automatic.
resources, look for other people and, find a good, maybe a Facebook community, good. There are a lot of Facebook good groups. Your group is wonderful. The other one that Jolene has, the Clean Fasting, Jolene's a great group. So find good communities that do the clean fasting because then a lot of them say, well, you can have a little bit of lemon in your water. No, you can't. So find, good groups that do, the clean fasting and that's it. And just, and you're going to feel better. Just do it. Just do it for yourself. Do it for your health. It's like I said, it's more than just losing the weight. It's so much more than just losing weight. It's just feeling good and feeling better, in your own skin. You can look yourself in the mirror and smile and tap yourself on the shoulder and say, this is good. This is good for me. It's a positive way of living. It's not going to hurt you, that's for sure.
For those who don't know, Daniela is an administrator on my group and also on Jolene's group. And listen, Daniela, I appreciate that so much because she it's crazy. She lives over there in Italy. She's on way different time zone. So when I'm asleep, she's awake. and
Right.
she can help me keep track of things going on and help Jolene keep track of things
That,
going on with her group.
that's
And
right. We
it's
have 24/7 coverage on our groups. We have
it's a
24/7 coverage.
it's a wonderful thing to have you on board, and I sincerely
Oh, well, you're
appreciate it.
wonderful. You're wonderful. Your groups are
And
wonderful, and everybody in the community is great.
I appreciate you being here today and giving us
Well,
your
thank you so much.
testimony. And
Thank you so much for
that
having me.
I know that some of the things that you've said are going to help some people along the
No, I
way.
hope so. I hope so. Just trust the process. It works.
All
It
right.
works. All
Bye
right.
bye.
All right. Take care. Thanks, Mike. Bye-bye.
If you need more information on fasting and want to join a group of people who embrace this lifestyle, let us recommend that you go to Facebook and search for Intermittent Fasting for the Win, and also search for Clean Fasting Jolene. Either of these groups will help you along the way. We also recommend that you read Jen Stevens' books, Delay, Don't Deny, and Fast, Feast, Repeat. Both of these books will give you valuable information to help you in your intermittent fasting journey.